Hey, what is going on? Welcome to Dharma Time here on WPSN99.com. I'm your host, the Dharma Guy, and joined as always with the Dope Doctor. What's up?
What's happening, brother?
Not much. It feels like we haven't done this in a long time. I know I said that last week, but nobody heard it because we didn't record it. So I'm going to say this now for the first time, because for a lot of people watching our YouTube and our podcast and everything else, it's been like several weeks.
That's very unfortunate.
Because
what happened last time?
I don't know. I think our producer might have mistakenly not recorded the audio there. But anyway, I digress. It's been a fun time, man. And on our Facebook Live, actually, we do have some people watching us. Mr. Ian Peterson's watching us on our Facebook Live, the dude that helped us out with our golf tournament by doing an amazing job at one of the holes, filming everybody with, I think it was called Trackmaster or something, where he was catching everybody's swings.
That's right.
And for those of you unaware, we just had our golf tournament for the Now Matters More Foundation. It went exceptionally well. It was an awesome time. Everybody enjoyed it.
Yep.
Very, very, as the president of the foundation, I'm very, very thankful for everybody that participated, everybody who volunteered, who joined, everything else. It was a blast. Very, very, very cool. Trackman is what it was called.
Trackman.
But anyways, I digress. Let's go ahead and jump into today's show, man, because it's been a while. Let's get it going.
Yeah.
No time for small talk with weather or anything, man. We're going to jump right into things.
Uh-oh. I was kidding.
Exactly. So anyways, today's topic, right? Today's topic is vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I'm very vulnerable right now, so please don't pick on me.
We're all vulnerable, man. But anyway, vulnerabilities, it's like a dirty word for a lot of people, right? When I say the word vulnerabilities, man, I think I could feel the cringe from a lot of people just happening, right? Because for a lot of people, that's a dirty word. It's a four-letter word for a lot of people.
I know. It's a lot of letters for a four-letter word, though.
Touché.
Because that vulnerability is not an easy word to spell.
Yeah, man. So anyways, so what are vulnerabilities? You and I were having this conversation prior to going on air. And I purposely wanted us to put the kibosh on that until we went on air, so we just have it on air.
Okay.
So
when I say kibosh?
I did. I like the word kibosh.
Instead of kibosh?
Well, yeah.
Isn't it kibosh?
I don't know.
Tomato?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Advertisement, advertisement, whatever.
Oh. Ooh, that's a bad one.
Anyways, so when I say vulnerabilities, this is what we were talking about beforehand. What is when you hear the word vulnerabilities, what do you think of? Because that was the thing, right? It's hard to define.
That's a great point.
It's hard to define what it is. So what is it to you?
Oh, you asking me a question?
I am.
Oh, man, when I hear vulnerability, I think of, being a little bit fearful of a response or reaction, being a little bit fearful of how things are going to play out, being unsure of the next page's content, being open and susceptible to a wave or a turn or some sort of push or some sort of emotion that I don't know if I'm ready for. You know, all of that, that anticipation then arises, right? Then that anxiety can then arise because I'm not really in control of the next moment.
What a great definition, man!
Mm-hmm. That's what I think.
That's a fantastic definition.
Yeah, all on the fly, brother.
I think. So, in addition to all of that, I think also, and we were doing a sports show earlier,
right?
Where we had Super Bowl champ Fred Stokes come on and talk to us a little bit, and we started talking about men and the suicide rate and things of that nature.
Yeah,
and so one of the things that's in addition to everything you just mentioned, one of the things that pops in my head when I think of vulnerabilities, and I think a lot of men think, and even women, is weakness.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people think that. I think a lot of people perceive vulnerabilities as a weakness.
I think it's pursued as equal, right?
Yeah,
like vulnerability equals weakness.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of equate the two, and
like it's a synonym.
Exactly. And so I think that's kind of why I wanted to address it today, right? Because being in my personal life and being in the professional life and what we do,
right?
I see a lot of individuals who want to try to convince either themselves or others that they don't have vulnerabilities. And in this sense, I'm going to use vulnerability as a synonym that I would use as insecurities.
Yeah.
Right? Like things about us that maybe push a button somewhere inside of us. Like, maybe somebody, in today's terminology will say triggers. Like somebody does something that triggers a memory from past for me. Or those are the two main things that I think of, right?
Right.
As far as what a vulnerability is some sort of insecurity of mine, or leaving the door open, as you pointed out, to be hurt, essentially. Like, those are the two kind of main avenues I think I kind of take it.
Okay.
Right? As men, we typically define those as weaknesses, and I think women do as well, and to a certain extent. Because I think too many people try to convince either themselves or others that they don't have vulnerabilities as if it's a good thing. Like, they try to like, I'm better than you because I don't have vulnerabilities or insecurities. I'm not insecure or vulnerable at all. That's something you need to work on.
Right.
I think a lot of people have that perspective, I think. Whether they truly have that, I don't know. But that's what they try to portray sometimes. And I'm just calling BS on that.
Okay.
I think
Call it BS.
I'm calling bullshit. We all have them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never met a human being in my entire life that does not have insecurities or vulnerabilities.
Well, very mentally ill people in the respect that they're maybe murderers, but they can't even feel the murder.
Yeah.
And like,
If you want to take it to the extreme area, then
John
yeah.
Wayne Gacy might not be vulnerable. I'm just saying.
Or maybe it was his vulnerabilities that turned him to murder.
It's very possible.
But anyways.
But you're right. I mean, every human being has.
We have them,
I mean,
man.
Why not?
There's no way you can make it in life without having some sort of a button.
Right,
And I think you said it one time in one of our previous shows, which I thought was actually a brilliant way of putting it, is we all have buttons that can be pushed. Our job as we get older is to try to minimize the size of those buttons.
Very
right?
much so, yes.
Which I think is a great way of putting it.
Right.
But to pretend like you don't have a button at all, I think that's a little short-sighted.
Yeah.
I think that's I think you might want to go to the back to the drawing board on that one and rethink some things.
Because we see your button.
And we all have them.
And you know what? If the more you deny having a button, I may want to push it.
Sure.
Because there's a part of me that loves going around pushing the little buttons.
Yeah. Well, I recently came over one of my own vulnerabilities, like one of my own like insecurities, actually.
Oh, this is self-disclosure class. I love it.
Sure, why not?
Let's do it.
Well, because my wife and I have had this conversation. There was a situation. Her and I. It was a couple of days ago. We were talking about it. So, and this is for me how woke, if you will, or how grown I've been able to be in my life.
Oh boy, now you're using.
Well,
that word.
I'm able to address them, and I think that to me is the strength, right?
Okay.
I think that's the defining factor between a vulnerability being a weakness or being a strength. If you can't talk about it, if you try to pretend like it's not there and you don't address it, then it's a weakness.
Oh yeah, it's doing.
If you address it and you're aware of it, then it's a strength.
Yeah, it's either a weapon for you or against you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a time in my life where this particular avenue would have been a major weakness in my life.
Okay.
I would have pretended it's not there. I would have gone with the whole machismo route, and it would have been a button that could have been very easily pushed.
Okay.
To where I'm at now in my life, and I guarantee you, or at least I hope anyways, you can relate to some of these.
Right.
As I get older, it's a little bit easier, right? And so that is, we both kind of game occasionally.
Yeah.
And there was a game that I was playing, and I was realizing that there was text in certain areas of what I was doing that when I was sitting, I have a big, like 70-some inch screen TV, and I would, I sit on my couch, and I'm realizing that when I'm trying to watch, I couldn't really read some of the descriptions as easily as I wanted to. Like, it was just like I had to think about it. It wasn't like a split second kind of like, oh, I got that. And then I would have to actually lean forward like a foot to see it clearly. And I did this for a while.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to admit to myself that maybe I need glasses.
I understand.
Right? And so then finally I was like, all right, this is stupid. And I talked to my wife, and because my wife is like, she works in ophthalmology. So she's like, hey, dumbass, just get some glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we went ahead and I took care of it. And then I ended up getting a very small prescription. Right?
Where are they, by the way?
I only have to wear them in certain areas.
Oh, okay.
That's my point, right?
You can see me okay right here?
Yes.
How many fingers am I holding up?
it was negative 0.25 or something, like whatever that means.
Yeah.
It was very small, I guess.
Yeah.
The lady told me, like, you don't even have to get them. You would pass every eye test. You don't need when you're driving.
Right.
It's just basically, it's just a quality of life type of deal.
And it's more distance?
Yeah, it's only a distance, and it's only like certain things at distance.
But not like reading.
Correct.
Okay.
They explained it to me in these very...
Hey, I don't get it either.
They were like, oh, somehow the way the light refracts. I was like, dude, I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah.
But my point was, getting them was like a weird moment. It was a big moment for me, because I've gone my whole life. I've never needed glasses. I've never had... You're talking to somebody who's never even spent a night in a hospital. And as we were talking about with Fred Stokes earlier on our other show, I'm a large human being.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been that guy that physically can just do whatever I want.
Right.
I can pick things up. I can throw them down.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been imposing. I've always been the big guy in the room that kind of just, I walk in and like, yeah, that's me. I do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm. We didn't know that you couldn't see us.
Yeah. And so as I've gotten older, physically, I haven't been as capable as I have been my whole life. Like I'm some of my physical abilities are diminishing a little bit.
Right.
And so for me, the whole prescription thing it felt like, my common sense said, yeah,
Right.
yeah, you're getting closer to 40, bro. Like it happens. But still, my ego inside of me was like, loser.
So you're benching 250 instead of 300, something like that.
But my ego was like, you loser. Like, what you like? That was a weakness, right? It's not a weakness, but my ego was telling me it was a weakness. And my wife couldn't understand it because she's had glasses since she was like young. Like her eyesight is.
So she's used to it.
Yeah, and she can't see me. Like I literally, like she's got really bad eyesight.
You ain't that big.
Yeah. So she's got really bad eyesight, and she's had medical things her whole life, whatever. Right. And being the fact that she's a more petite female, she's never judged on her physical prowess, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so for her, she couldn't understand why it was like a big deal to me. And I'm like, it is. And granted, I don't have to wear them all the time. I literally only have to wear them when I'm doing that one particular activity. And other than that, it's fine. Right. But I was noticing it was causing some headaches because I'm trying to strain to read the little things. But that's a vulnerability. I had to allow myself to realize, yeah, dude, you're not 19 anymore.
Right.
Things are going to happen.
Right.
But I think that, like, I could very easily see, had I not been where I'm at spiritually in my life, had I not be as mature as I am now or self-aware as I am, in other words, had this have taken place when I was 22, it would have bothered me. It would have bothered me. I would have been embarrassed about it. I wouldn't have talked to anybody about it. I probably wouldn't have gone into the doctor to even get the classes in the first place. Because it was a hot button for me. Like, I relied so much on my physicality my whole life.
But what do eyes have to do with physicality?
It's not. I didn't say
just in you.
I didn't say it was rational.
Oh, okay.
Vulnerabilities typically aren't rational.
I missed that part. But some of them at least have some little, flavor.
Well, for me,
it
was
of reality.
The way I guess made that comparison in my head was once again my physical abilities. I'm no longer able to see what I wanted to see without some sort of assistance from something outside myself.
Your mom says it was because you're getting older.
Yeah, my mom said getting older isn't fun. Yeah. Correct. Oh no, as a dude without a father in his life, there's all sorts of fun little things I'm finding out as I'm getting older. That it's like nobody told me about these things. But anyway,
well, you still urinate rather quickly, sir. So I got to give it up to you because
it's a powerful stream. We're good.
It still takes me 3 times as long as you to finish up. So,
but anyways, but that got me to thinking. Right, it got me to thinking. That whole situation that played out. Yeah, it got me to thinking about vulnerabilities, and I started thinking the things that were coming to my mind were, number one, how many people are out there, vulnerable but lying to themselves and others, thinking that they're not, like catching an attitude and being whatever, not realizing that it's a vulnerability. And the other thing I hear a lot, and we could go whichever direction we need to, but the other thing I hear a lot, especially in relationships, is not allowing yourself to be vulnerable because you don't want the other person to hurt you.
Right.
And you think that that's like protecting you in some weird kind of way. Mm-hmm. So those are the two things that made me think of. So go ahead.
Well, that's why I made that joke about the urine stream, because I remember when that first happened, when I first started realizing that was an age thing. Right. Because at first I was just thinking, well, maybe I didn't have to go that bad. Or maybe, I was just trying to figure out why it was taking longer or the stream wasn't as strong. Right. Until I heard other older men talk about it. Right. Until I realized that you'd be in the bathroom and me and the old guy gets there at the same time, and the young kid comes in, the young kid goes in and out, another young kid comes in, goes out, another young kid, but me and the old guy are there the whole time. And and then it hit me. Oh, yeah, this is an age thing.
Congratulations.
But to the whole vulnerability thing, I think it's one of those things that people like me that use humor to kind of go through things. Sure. I've always used humor as a tool, as a coping mechanism, sure. Right? So I've always kind of made fun of myself because in my family there was so many things that would be used to kind of get me. Right. I have an older brother. We're all guys and stuff, and so we kind of punch each other a lot. Right. And so I've kind of used self-deprecating humor as a way. So skinny arms, you're not going to get me with skinny arms. Chicken legs, I had chicken legs. I was short. I was short. I looked really young for my age. I a late bloomer. Whatever you got, it doesn't matter, because by making fun of myself or dealing with it, then it take away all your weapons.
Yeah.
So the vulnerability was, does it really bother me?
Right.
And there were certain things that just really, really bothered me. So I learned early on in my getting better, right? Turning into a man emotionally, not physically, emotionally, which took all of the 20s, and literally half of the 30s. Yeah. Is that I had to really be more open about those vulnerabilities. Yeah. What?
That's a hard thing, though.
How do I really feel about that stuff? Because I buried it.
Yeah.
And when you bury it and you laugh about it and joke about it, you forget that, it actually did bother me. That's why there was trigger words. Yeah. That's why when someone would use certain words, like I remember when wetback and spick were really bad words, when skinny or little were really bad words. When I dealt with all those insecurities, which is why I like how you defined it, when I dealt with those insecurities, I realized, wow.
Yeah. They don't have any power anymore.
They have no power. Yeah. Which is kind of why in today's world it bothers me when people utilize that stuff to kind of make points, because it's like, we're going backwards, fellas. I don't want to go backwards.
No,
I don't care if you call me a wetback or spick. I don't care if you're racist or not, because I've already dealt with that. Yeah. That was more my stuff, not your stuff. You're allowed to be hateful. You're allowed to be hurtful. You're allowed to be a jerk off. My strength comes from accepting that I'm not always going to be exactly how I envision myself to everybody else. Yeah. But the way I view myself or envision myself is very important to me. And that is what gives me a drive. That's what gives me my personal strength. And that's what allows me to live without anxiety and pain.
Well, I think you hit on the head there.
Who wants anxiety and pain?
No, nobody. But I think you actually hit on the head there a little bit as well, in the sense of oftentimes, what was it, the ego, the superego, the id.
Right.
Oftentimes how we see ourselves kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a moment that I don't know if enough people have in today's world. Like, it's not really, it's not popularized. It's not like a sexy thing, is to get to know yourself on that level. We like to lie to ourselves and pretend like, no, this is who I am. And anybody else who doesn't agree with that, you're just wrong.
Right.
Maybe you're not the way you see yourself. Maybe maybe you're not as tall, not as skinny, not as attractive, not as funny, not as whatever. Right. And that's okay. But I don't think we realize that that's okay. Right. Like, we convince ourselves that this is who we are, and anything less than that is just not acceptable, and that's a problem. Then my whole world comes crashing down. And I think that's why I know you and I use a lot of times in the points that we make. And I don't think people I think people underestimate how important it is when we say self-aware. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like, being self-aware is probably one of the most important things I've ever done in my life.
Right.
Is to be legitimately self-aware. Right. To be able to step back out of a situation and say, hold up, why was I really doing that? Right. Because I too was able to get in situations where I could convince myself that I'm really upset and frustrated right now because that person really is just stupid. Right. Or this person's whatever. Mm-hmm. Not because they said some stuff I didn't agree with or it hit me somewhere deep inside that I didn't like, and I was defending that little area of myself. No, I couldn't admit that. And that's why for me spirituality helped, and that's where mindfulness, actually, when it comes to spirituality and Buddhism, is mindfulness, is the feeling tone of the situation and why. In other words, something happened, and I got to say to myself, what's the feeling tone right now? Was it positive, negative, or neutral? Do I care? Do I not care? Or is it bothering me? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I think that we're not really good at that. We're good at the when it comes to mindfulness, we're good at the physicalities of stuff. Mm-hmm. There's lights above my head at the moment. There's two of us in the room. Like, we're pretty good at that. Yeah. But we're not so good about how did that make me feel and why. That's the kind of stuff that I think we could do better at. Right. And I think that's what turns our vulnerabilities into a weakness, is our inability to see ourselves as we are.
Right, and that self-awareness can be when you're first learning how to appreciate your self-awareness, it could be dangerous because you become you could be hyper-aware. Yeah. To the point where you think everybody sees what you're seeing or what you're thinking or feeling. Yeah. And then you have to get to the point where you realize, wait a minute, they really just don't give a damn.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
I care. They don't care. You know what they're busy doing? They're busy wondering if you see the zit on the middle of their forehead. Exactly. They're not looking at your zit.
So, in the training world, I would have that all the time, right? I would have so many clients that would refuse to go to the gym because they think that they look, everybody's going to look at them and say, oh, look, they don't belong here. They're so fat.
Right.
And I used to always try to tell them, nobody cares.
No.
First of all, nobody's paying attention to
No.
you. They're doing their own thing. They're doing their own workouts, and they're all worried about their own little like insecurities.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying attention to you at all.
But that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
That happens in the workplace and everything. It's amazing how much time we spend or how much mental space it takes up sometimes when you're still learning how to be self-aware, but also reasonable, like rational.
Yeah.
Like you can get irrational very quickly, and I think more importantly than a lot of things, and we probably have to do a show just on rational thinking, because we get irrational a lot.
Yes.
And once we're in irrational mode, and you're not aware of it,
everything
becomes reality.
Yeah.
Everything becomes reality. So part of being vulnerable is understanding that I become irrational, and I really don't want to be irrational. I really don't want to appear to be less than what I really am.
Right.
I want to be exactly who I am, but that's difficult.
It is.
If you don't just relax. That's difficult if anxiety gets into play. And some of you out there actually suffer real anxiety, and some of you suffer anxiety based on stuff that you can really fix.
Right.
Like there's a difference between general anxiety disorder or generalized anxiety disorder and just a little bit of anxiety.
Sure. I think we all experience a little bit of anxiety all the time.
Yeah. Anxiety is normal for everybody. But if you notice, in today's world, too many people are hiding behind I suffer anxiety, which is not a true diagnosable anxiety, but just a very normal sense of self that you're becoming a little bit hyper-aware on stuff and you're overthinking it.
Yes. And the other half of the equation that I mentioned earlier.
No, you don't, Christina.
The other half of what I was saying earlier was in relationships. I see it a lot as well.
Right.
In relationships, vulnerability is a dirty word in the sense of I don't want to care about this person or open myself up to this person because they might hurt me.
Right.
And what I try to convince those people, number one, is not only you're hurting yourself in a sense, like you're doing the damage before they even get a chance.
Right.
You're assuming that they're going to hurt you. Number three, you're assuming that you're able to get rid of pain. Period. Like this idea that you can escape pain by not being connected to a person or by not being vulnerable with that person.
Right.
It's a myth.
Okay.
And, the first truth is life is full of pain. It's going to happen. There's nothing you're going to do to take that out of the equation.
Right.
Stop thinking it's possible. Instead, learn how to cope and deal with it. And not only that, but learn how to define it as pain. Just because somebody doesn't agree with you or if they win against your expectations, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is. It's a fact.
Right.
People go against your expectations a lot.
Well, I mean, there's a different, look, like we say a lot on this show, right? Pain is a part of life, right?
It is.
But you have the ability to increase your pain tolerance.
Yes. As you said, make the button smaller.
Yeah. I mean, we all have, but even if it's just really physical, I'm going to even that part.
Well, if it's
even
physical,
if it's real physical pain, you have people that suffer real physical pain have increased their tolerance to pain.
Yes.
So when people that don't suffer physical pain talk about pain, people like your mom who experienced real pain would look at you and go like, don't even,
sure.
Don't even tell me because I live with pain. Now that I'm older, where I wake up and literally you're like, oh my God, just
things ache.
Yeah, it's like, you develop a different tolerance.
Yeah.
Like luckily I already have a high pain tolerance. So I can imagine that if I didn't have a high pain tolerance, how much pain am I really in, actually?
Yeah.
I must be in a lot more pain than I even know.
Like
but now take that emotionally. If I'm emotionally always feeling pain, and I have not learned that not only is it part of life, but I can learn how to cope with a lot of it, and I can learn how to maybe deal with it differently, accept it differently, therefore increase my tolerance, then I just want everybody on the outside to change. I just want everyone else, outside to just stop. But that's not reality, right? I mean, it's not reality that the whole world is going to adjust to you.
No.
This world will push that button. They will find your level of vulnerability and tap into it when you least expect it if you're fearful of your vulnerability instead of embracing it.
Well, and not only that, though, I mean, to address the other half of the equation as far as rewarding is concerned, I couldn't imagine not being vulnerable with my wife. Like, it's such a rewarding thing. Like, when you're truly vulnerable with somebody, that's true trust, right?
It's more bond, right?
Yeah, and you give that person the vulnerability, you're giving them trust as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving you the ability to hurt me, but I'm trusting that you're not.
Yeah.
And that's a true kind of, I'm trying to think of what it was when the, what was it? The old school when, way back in the day, like in the armies and things of that nature, where they would take their hat off. That was their sign of showing, hey, I
Respect?
don't. No, it was a sign of showing that I'm not hiding anything. Can't remember what it's called. It's like a mutual agreement, it's mutual trust. I can't remember what it was called. But anyways, my point is, in a relationship, it's the same way. It's a mutual trust between two people, and that's where the bond comes into play. Is you both have the ability to legitimately hurt and scar one another, but you're not going to do it.
Oh, yes. Wait. You're not going to do it?
Well, that's the trust.
But let's be
But
real.
some people
I don't
do.
know about your relationship.
Not necessarily inadvertently, but
Dana,
some people do.
I know you're not watching
here you
this.
go.
But Dana
she's going to watch this one. I'm going to make sure.
No, because, we are vulnerable to each other, right?
Sure.
So by being vulnerable to each other, you open up. Well, you know what? And sometimes, here's our problem as humans.
Yeah.
Is that we use each other's vulnerability sometimes when all else fails. Like, because you can't smack each other, right?
Well, you can.
By the way, you cannot legally
Not
smack
legally,
each other.
but
You
you're
can,
physically capable.
but you shouldn't. But anyway, so you
I'm glad you put that out there.
Yeah, I had to, man. Disclaimer, some people don't think.
Well, Louis told me.
Yeah, but you throw daggers at each other in a relationship. So by you talking about relationships,
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never thrown a dagger in my life.
My wife knows my vulnerabilities, so she knows. Like if I say anything about feelings, like she just hurt my feelings, that is like one that she'll just go, "Oh, did I hurt your feelings?" Oh man, Dana, when you say that to me, oh my God, I really wish. I could hear ding ding, and like me and Pinkle and Thomas were in a ring or something. You know what I mean? So you go, oh, let me say it differently because I just hurt your feelings. Oh my God! But luckily, we're mature enough to also know. Okay, you just tapped into. Yeah. You know that
I see what you're doing there.
I've worked really hard to kind of to let my sensitive side out and be vulnerable to it, and you just tapped it because you're obviously feeling like I must be hurting you somehow.
Sure.
So you used it against me. The point is knowing that it's a temporary little pat, a little jab, but you might use it. You might use it.
Yeah, of course.
So we have trust, but we also trust that when all else fails, you're going to use that. It's not
what I was getting at. Though,
it's not to snap your neck or anything.
No,
it's just to throw a dart at you.
Well, it's like I'm hurting. I want you to hurt as well, kind of a thing. I think.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at was there is a true rewarding factor of that, though. Of that, like you said, bonding.
Okay.
Right? When you have that legitimate bond, when you're vulnerable with one another, that you don't get if you refuse to be vulnerable.
Right.
Right? Because, it's one of those things where you're never going to be able to truly love the person because you're only seeing what they're showing you as opposed to who they
build
are.
A wall.
Yeah. And what do they say about walls? They keep things out, but they also keep things in. And so, but I just think that vulnerabilities is such a... I'm telling you right now, I know just the title of this show. I guarantee you a lot of people saw that and cringed. And I think a lot of people are going to tune in because they're curious, because that's the thing, right? Is everybody's curious about it, but nobody really wants to talk about it, right? Like everybody's like kind of worried and I don't know, it's dirty, but they're curious because deep down inside they know that they need to work on it. I think I really do.
And it's so deeper than just physical, and I think all too often we just think of it as physical, which is why I'm bringing up. There's certain words as well.
See, when I think vulnerability,
visual.
I think insecurities and stuff.
Yeah,
I think more mental than I do physical. Maybe because I'm 6'3".
Yeah, maybe because that wasn't your vulnerability.
Physicality was never my.
That's what
I was not worried.
There's a point.
Yeah,
there's a point. Or you could have been if you were beaten.
Yeah, I was when I was a kid.
Okay, well,
maybe that's why I worked so hard in the gym.
But see, I was beaten by my brother, and that was mine. Therefore, I went the reverse.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, I think all levels of vulnerability have to kind of be discussed when we talk about this.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. But I just I hear it so much though. My mom says I wasn't always 6'3". Correct.
Right.
That would have been very painful, I think, for you. Just saying. But no, I think vulnerability is such a weird topic though. It really is. It's such a weird thing because we all have them, but it's like some people don't want to talk about them. Some people don't want to admit they're there. Some people go at great lengths to try to pretend that they're not there, which is funny because the bigger the length that you go to pretend it's not there, the bigger the vulnerability is to me.
Right.
You spend that much effort to get rid of it or to pretend it's not there. If you put half that effort into just confronting it and getting to know it, it wouldn't be a big deal anymore.
It's weird. By speaking about this, it just reminded me of one of the cases that's really big right now. Right, the R. Kelly thing is still a really big thing.
It's a huge thing still.
And to hear some of the women talk about that, a lot of them got brought into trusting him more because he became vulnerable to them. He told them about his inability to read. He told them about his inability to spell, and so that allowed a lot of them in. So when someone, to your point, when you open up to somebody, it creates that trust. Yeah. When you become vulnerable, it creates that trust. unfortunately, some people do use it.
Well, he's a predator.
Predators.
Yeah.
Predators can use that against you, but that doesn't prevent you from just doing the right thing. I mean, he might have accidentally got into the predator mode by saying, "Wow, he was doing it as therapy." Then because he's a predator, it appears that he's using it.
Sure.
I don't know if he's actually using it as a predatorial thing, or it's just as a result of because he was using it as therapy.
Well,
we don't know that.
I think there's another aspect to things as well, and one of the reasons why people are so afraid to, obviously not everybody, but I think one of the big things that prevents people from being vulnerable at times is because when you're hurt emotionally, it can feel like it's going to last forever. It can feel like you're never going to get over it, and it's devastating. It's hard to think of in that moment that this too shall pass kind of a thing. Like, you will get over this, you will cope it, life does go on.
Right. In
that exact moment, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like, this broken heart's going to last forever, and there's nobody out there that's going to love me, all these other things. All those things can pile up. And I think that's a very dangerous way of thinking, obviously. But that's where self-awareness comes into play. That's where looking back and saying, look, I've gone through struggles before in my life, and I've overcome them. It's part of the growing and maturation process.
Well, isn't the reality, though, if you don't deal with your vulnerabilities, it will become a character defect.
Absolutely.
How you deal with it and how you respond to life from that point forward will become a character defect. That's why you become diagnosable. That's why there's so many adults out there. We're not going to name names, but there's a lot of names out there, and some very high-profile names. They might even be running countries and stuff, but the people have diagnosed them, but it's based on their vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Unresolved issues.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, that's the true weakness. The vulnerability itself isn't the weakness. It's your inability to work on it becomes your weakness. Like, it almost becomes bigger than you, and it has its own, life and its own entity. I used to have conversations with people in the sense, some of my favorite people to work with were the really aggressive, emotionally unstable people, like the just
me too.
very angry people, because to me that was passion, and all that told me is if I can help them dial that passion in,
same,
they'll be the most hyper focused individual I've ever met in my life.
Right.
To whereas the other people who were getting them to understand essentially that they've lost control, right? Like that was the person who was getting hyper emotional about stuff and just super crazy passionate. If I could just get them to understand that you're no longer in control now, you're giving the control to these people. All they got to do is say one or two words and you go off running. Get them to redirect that. Oh my gosh, they're the most hyper focused people. To whereas the ones who are just indifferent, those are the hard ones to work with for me. Because those ones, it's like, how do I get some sort of emotion out of
they're not giving you anything to work with.
No, they're not. But no, I think. But if I'm honest, though, it's easy. It's easy for me to sit here now, almost 40, with kids and everything else, that has done a lot of work, to say, "Oh man, that's what you got to do." But if I'm honest, when I was 19, 20 years old, that's the last thing I wanted to do, man. No, it is hard. It is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life.
Brother, I couldn't even spell vulnerable in my 20s.
Yeah, so I don't want to make it sound like it's easier than it truly is, right. But I will say it's worth it. It's one of the few things in my life that was worth the effort. There's a lot of things we do. It takes, and that's where the flip side is, right? It takes so much effort to live with your vulnerabilities. It takes so much effort to constantly chase people away from your vulnerabilities and protect that and keep it going. Yeah. It takes so much work and effort to keep that. And it's not a fun lifestyle. We convince ourselves that we're comfortable with it. That's just because that's what you know. So you convince yourself that it's easier to not let things go and hold on to. Right. It's really not. It takes so much energy to maintain that. But it takes a lot of effort to get rid of it as well. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But the cool part is you're working towards an end, right? If you're trying to protect it, that never ends. If all you're trying to do is protect your vulnerability and keep it from happening, you're going to do an awful lot of work, and that's never going to stop. You're signing up for a lifelong job is what that is. There's no end in sight. To whereas if you start doing the hard work to get rid of it, there is an end in sight. You will eventually deal with it given enough time and enough effort. And so it'll become easier over time. And then once that button, as you pointed out, once that button gets so small, life takes on a whole different perspective. When I'm no longer controlled by my vulnerabilities and my insecurities, when I'm now kind of just, I'm okay with those, man, life looks so much different. It takes so much less effort to do things now. And it's so much easier for me to make relationships work with friends and family and things of that nature because I'm able now to realize, okay, yeah, that was me. Maybe I kind of overreacted to that one because of this. I'm sorry. And that's so much easier to develop a relationship than, well, no, you were an asshole because you said this, this, and this.
Well, I wanted to, because I became a counselor so early on. I mean, I was in private practice at 23 years old, and I still hated people.
Right.
So I had to, for the sake of my career as well, besides just my relationship, I had to become more vulnerable because I had to become available.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there was no way to become emotionally available without becoming vulnerable.
Wouldn't transference be a problem there too, though? At some point,
what was that?
Wouldn't transference become a problem if you did work on those things?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought I was protecting myself.
Right.
To the point where, if people committed suicide or they didn't make it and they died,
Right.
so that I wouldn't, be destroyed by it.
Sure.
Right? So I thought I was protecting myself, so it kind of fit. But I wanted to connect as well. And what I found is my strength was in connecting with people. So first I just, like my wife and I say it a lot about faking it so you make it with a lot of things, not just,
Sure.
Using or getting clean, but I faked it till I made it with people.
Sure.
I faked loving people long enough that I began to then really love them, and I think that was kind of important. But again, it came from wanting to be available. I wanted to be available for Dana. I knew that I wanted to be available eventually for children, but I think that those people that go, if you're with somebody that is not emotionally available, to me, it may be a sign that they're unwilling to be vulnerable, or may not even know that that's the secret trick, right?
Yeah.
Like when we talk about buttons, I do like that my button has a lock and key and password. Like it requires like retina. The buttons that I have require like retina verification.
Sure.
But the fact that they require that doesn't mean that people don't have it. My wife has retina verification.
Yes.
She can still push my button because she has the password, passcode, retina verification, and boom, my button gets pressed.
My wife has all those things, but she has it under the fingerprint thing, so she doesn't have to enter anything. She just touches it and it's there. Like she bypasses all the security things.
Thank you, Shannon. Shannon on the line said that she's been referring people to the Now Matters More Foundation on Facebook.
Right
Thank
on.
you very much,
Awesome.
Shannon.
Thank you so much for that.
Appreciate that. What's up, Kevin? What's going on? So all those different levels, there's so many different levels of vulnerability.
Yes.
And here's the cool thing, is that no matter how much work that you and I have done on vulnerability, there's still more to do.
Oh, yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know, because with each, I don't know about with you said you're pushing 40, I'm pushing 50.
Right.
I turned 50 this year. And so what's weird is I don't feel an anxiety about it. I don't feel like weird about it. I feel proud about it.
It's a big milestone, though.
But I think it's really cool. The only time it's not cool is when I really realize it's 50. It's like it's a big number.
Yeah, when the reality hits.
Yeah,
you.
the reality of the number part
Yeah.
is huge. So, but just like I'm excited about it. So I mean, whereas you could be vulnerable about just the whole age thing and stuff, I've lived my life as if I'm dying tomorrow for so long.
Right.
That part does not concern me.
Well, to me, once again, that's kind of what I'm saying, though, is when you work on the vulnerabilities, when you admit that you have them, you take the time to put some work in to understand them, life just takes on a different meaning. Yeah, life just feels differently.
It's like living on bonus time, man.
Yeah, man. Everything feels better. Everything tastes better. Everything looks better. Like, because you no longer walk around with this big monkey on your back, just waiting for somebody to kind of, or this big button trying to just protect it. All this effort and energy spent on protecting your button is now spent on living life and getting to know people. Like,
if you try to protect it, it kind of turns into, remember that Skittles commercial where all the Skittles pop up on that kid's face, and that's how it looked. You just gave yourself more buttons.
Yeah,
they're all over the place.
Well, what I envision is somebody with a button the size of like a basketball court, trying to protect it all day
walking
long.
like Flavor Flav, but instead of a clock, it's a big button.
Yeah. And it's like, you're spending all day long trying to protect it and make sure everybody stays off of it. It's just never going to happen. Yeah. It's much easier just to make it smaller.
Yeah.
Just working on things.
Just deal with it. Deal with it. I mean, be vulnerable. Embrace it.
Exactly.
But like you said crying earlier. I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah, man. I think we were talking to Fred about that, and especially for men, a lot of times crying is frowned upon. You're considered a sissy or whatever if you cry. And what's wrong with you? You're not a man anymore. Like the definition of what a man is, and I think.
See, all that stuff that you just said, you can't even say any of that stuff that you just said anymore. You can't use any of those words anymore because really. Because what is it insinuating? That only females cry, right? Yeah. What is it insinuating? But
that's what we've been taught.
Because I wouldn't even know the definition of that other word that you said. And I'm not even going to repeat it because I don't even know what it is anymore. But the point is that what a man is to you, it's to you.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for all of us to respect that whatever your definition is, that's reality. That's your definition.
Yeah.
So instead of getting all tied up in the language that you may use or I may use or that someone else in your life may use. Don't get tied up in the semantics of trying to push a political or social agenda. Just understand what it means to that person when they're saying it.
Are you talking about acceptance and tolerance? Is that what you're talking about?
Isn't that what we do on Dharma Time? Acceptance and tolerance. I'm just
Of
saying
everybody?
it because it's almost like you can't even have this subject the way we're talking about it
No.
without someone says,
Somebody's
"Oh,
probably offended right now.
yeah, you're gonna offend."
Yes.
So I'm just setting that up there to say, you're overly vulnerable. No, you're too sensitive.
Overly sensitive.
Overly sensitive is what it is.
But even then, I would ask myself, why?
Yeah.
Why are you so sensitive? Why are you so vulnerable in certain areas? I think that's a question that we got to ask
You
ourselves.
can't. You can't say man up anymore. Is what got it. You
Yeah.
can't say man up.
No, you cannot say man up. No, even though we just said it like 4 times.
I'm gonna. I you know what I like telling guys? Put your big girl panties on.
Oh, I say that all the time.
Yeah, I say that.
Yeah, I say that all the time.
Put your big girl panties on and do it, man.
Dude, if they had a camera,
Because women are strong as hell. How come I can say that though? How come it's okay that I say, "Oh, women are strong as hell"? Damn straight we are.
Yeah, because men aren't. We're not allowed to do that anymore. Men, we're attacked. Hey, dude, you're talking to one of the number one most attacked. I'm a white straight male, dude. Like, come on. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, but you're Buddhist, so that gives you an out. If you're a Christian, you'd be hated more.
Exactly.
The Buddhism gives you an out. You're
Yes.
allowed.
The Buddhism
you're given
gives me
freedom.
street cred.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
cool.
you got street cred.
Yeah.
And you have tattoos.
Yeah, exactly. Although those.
But if you had no tattoos, you had no beard, you were a Christian white straight male, then you'd be really screwed.
Yeah, I'd be number one hated person in the world.
Then
At
you'd
the
be
moment.
screwed. And nobody would feel sorry for you. That's
No.
a totally different show.
Exactly. But anyways,
Vulnerable.
yeah,
Hey, does a beard and tattoos that shields some vulnerability issues though, doesn't it? Isn't
What
that
do you
kind of well? Part of being vulnerable is if I give you an image, because I used to think this when I had my goatee and my earring and my long hair, my black leather jacket. All initially, yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I liked to wear it. But initially, that became my dress code because of what it did to my vulnerability and insecurities. It protected me from that. So how it became the way I dressed in the first place came from not such a great place. Now I wear it because it's who I am. Now I have a look because it's a real comfort zone, but not emotionally anymore. It's how I recognize myself in the mirror. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I ever.
But initially,
personally
the earring,
use it that way.
the goatee, the leather jacket, the long hair, the way I walked, the way I talk, all that told people who I was before I had to tell them who I was. So it just shut it all down. So I didn't have to explain a lot. You know what I mean? Because if I walked in hardcore neighborhoods, it left me alone. If I walked in certain circles, it kind of left it be what it is. You know what I mean? But if I were to wear a pink polo and brown khakis and penny loafers in the neighborhoods that I would hang out with, that wouldn't have done well.
Right.
So not only did I not like it, it wouldn't have fit well anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever really consciously used them that way. Personally.
I didn't say consciously.
Right.
I don't think those things are conscious. I think those things are subconscious. But I guarantee it stems from that.
I know. For me, the gym was actually part of that for sure.
Well, I'm sure
Being
the
the
gym,
biggest,
I'm sure
strongest
I'm sure the tattoos are part of that because they're one or two things. They're that.
I've always had a fascination with tattoos. Though, even when I was a
fascination
kid.
is different than
I've
having
loved
them.
them.
Fascination is different than having them.
Right.
But when you have them, show them. They're journals.
Yeah.
Tattoos are journals.
Yes.
So as a counselor, I look at them and I go, I can see your life by reading you.
Yeah.
You know, like when you die, we just flip you back and forth and we just get the story of your life.
Read away.
Just read your life story.
Yeah,
everybody says, everybody has a book in them. Well, yeah, if you do tattoos, then you don't need to write it. You just need to, just show us your body.
Just take some pictures.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
That's it.
Have at it.
That should be your book.
just
take pictures of each tattoo.
Well,
separately.
they got people actually now that save the skin after they die and put it on display.
Wait.
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
What?
Yeah, you heard me.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you said.
There's people who have tattoos that after they die, they've saved the skin and it gets displayed.
Where is that? Where can I go to the Museum of Skin?
I'd have to look it up for you.
I want to go to the Museum of Skin. That would be such a cool museum.
It's weird. It's weird.
Well, it must be in Austin, Texas.
When
then.
the skin is all dried out, but you can still see the tattoos.
Oh, I want to see that. I want to see
weird.
that. That is
Anyways,
weird.
I digress. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't honestly say. I don't know. Obviously, where I'm at now, I tend to think that wasn't what it is, but I can't. It's hard for me to put myself in the mindset of 20 years ago when I was first getting them.
Yeah, it's you
now,
can't.
The beard is just straight up laziness.
I'm not saying no. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I did it because I knew I was doing it.
Right.
I just knowing the human brain and human behavior,
how it perceives it.
It makes sense. It just made sense, and knowing how comfortable I feel now, so I can go either way. And here's one real quick way that I learned how to deal with certain issues that I had. there was a time period where I had this construction company on the side, and one of my trucks that I had got wrecked, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I went and I took the truck from this guy, and you know, it was a mess. But anyway, I got the truck back, and I had to get a door, so I went to the junkyard, and I got a green door on a white truck.
Right.
So I was driving a white truck with a green door, and I remember feeling very insecure about it.
Right.
Out of nowhere, had no idea that I had an image issue,
Right.
you know, and I felt weird. So then I just dealt with it, and oh my God, I just started like being okay with driving around. Yeah, I got a green door. Yeah, it's a work truck. Yeah, it's not. So I started taking it to work, to my counseling office. So I didn't just take it to the construction office. I took it to the counseling office, and I had a doctor's parking spot right there in front of my counseling. Had a sign said, you know, doctor only. So I had my parking spot, and I'd back up. And I'd show the green door to the entire place because I back up parking. So my green door, every client that came in and saw knew that I was driving that white truck with the green door. And it was the most, I can't even explain it to you guys, but it was the most liberating moment of my life. I actually went through a transition internally where it felt so liberating. Yeah. And I didn't even know I had that issue going on,
and that's
an image
I mean.
issue at the time. And it felt great.
And that's what I mean by, you know, confronting those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Like, it feels so much better.
But sometimes you don't even know you have it until you get placed in a situation.
Yeah.
You know, like initially I was embarrassed. And then I was like, what am I embarrassed about? The reality, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I do think some of that does come with age, though. Like, I think...
but I was still like 30.
Yeah. Some of the best... And we can learn from them, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Some of our elders. Yeah. Is some of the most outspoken, like, non-vulnerable, if you will, insecure people are some of the oldest people we know. Like, granted, there are some fuddy-duddies out there that are, get off my lawn, those guys.
That's going to be me. I can't wait.
Yeah. But I just remember, like, and I'm thinking of a very specific scenario. We're going to take a different turn here, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But you've been in gyms, I'm sure.
I've been in them.
The male locker room. The male gym locker room is probably is where you want to learn a very quick lesson on vulnerabilities and insecurities.
Let me tell you something.
The older
they have no idea what's going on.
Has no shame, no vulnerabilities, does not care. And I aim to be that one day.
Dude, my brother has said it many times that his goal in life is to be that old guy with the Speedo.
He just doesn't care.
Doesn't care. But what I don't understand, you just hit on it, because that old guy,
he doesn't care.
He clearly doesn't know how saggy his whole body is and how itty bitty that little penis is, and he's still walking around the gym.
He probably does know,
naked.
But doesn't care.
It's like, dude, if I was carrying that equipment, I'd cover that crap.
I got one for you.
And he doesn't. It's always the big, weird
body
little guy
for you.
with the micro penis.
I got a story for you. We'll wrap up this with this story, and then I'll do my tips. Right. This is gonna be a fun little tidbit for all of our listeners here.
Okay.
This is a story that you're not going to be able to get out of your head.
Oh, no. So you just put that guy's image back in my face.
You're welcome for this.
Oh, Jesus.
So here I am. I was at the gym.
Okay.
I go into the locker room. I go to the restroom.
Okay.
I'm coming out of the restroom, and the pathway back into the gym is through, the dressing area for the locker room, right?
Yeah, okay.
So there's a door that separates where the bathrooms area are and the locker room area. You have to go through it.
Okay. So
I open the door. I look up. And what I see is there's an older gentleman who's been at this gym for years. Everybody knows him. He's always there. He's I'd guess 80s.
Drying his junk. I bet you he's drying his junk.
Yes and no. So now he is extremely hairy, like everywhere. Looks like he has a fur coat on, right? What I see though, is he is facing the same direction as I am. So he's facing that way. So I'm seeing his backside.
Okay.
He is bent over, with one foot up on top of the stool thing, the bench thing.
Yeah,
but it's like a higher bench. I mean like waist level bench. It's like a countertop basically. So one foot on the countertop, the other foot on the floor, bent over, with a blow dryer.
I knew he was drying his junk. I've seen it.
Blow drying his taint, if you will, and that's what I see. I look up. I'm like, why am I seeing this right now?
I've seen that guy. Butt
naked, completely hairy, bent over, and that's what I see, a full Monty shot of everything. And I'm like, and at the time, I'm like, what the hell? I just started laughing, and I left. I was like, what did I just see? But looking back, that dude has no shame. He has no vulnerability at the moment in that particular area. Like, he's reached that age where he just doesn't give a shit anymore. and that's got to be such a freeing thing. I don't want to know. I don't want to get quite to that level.
May I never get to that level.
But that mentality of just like, I'm good, man. Like, what are you gonna say to me? I'm 80, dude. I don't care. I'm 80. What are you gonna say?
Yeah.
To get to that level before I'm 80 would be nice. I don't want to do that.
Well,
but to be at that level where you're just like, I don't really care anymore. I'm good. This is who I am. Get over it.
I think we would have to like do this show like completely naked, but fix all the cameras so they can't see us, and to see how do we feel pretty vulnerable right now? How does it feel, Trinity? This feels kind of weird and awkward right now. That would be vulnerable. Yeah. Doing a live show while we're in that kind of that would be weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm there yet. I haven't reached that level of
all right. So
of attainment just yet.
So our goal is one of these days, Trinity and I will do a show completely butt naked, but you can't see us from the waist down.
Yeah,
I
don't think that's ever gonna happen. So
we're gonna be 70 and I'll be 80. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, it's I don't even know what to say to that. Oh my God, we took a way different turn here.
Woo! I don't want to be that healthy.
Yeah, right.
If that's healthy, Trinity, I'm good with a little sickness.
That's the point. Is I'm okay with. I don't know if I want to get to that level of attainment.
Look, man, I'm not. It's gonna take me a while before I get into yoga and tofu. I'm not saying it's not in the future, but yoga and tofu can wait, along with blow drying my taint in the.
The sad part is, as much as I want to forget that image, I can't.
You know what? I can't either because I've seen it.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, there must be a lot of people that do that because I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah,
oh,
it's
Christ,
weird.
Dude,
I don't get it.
Come on, use your talent.
Apparently, that's like a rite of passage or something.
That must be an old man thing. When they invented the blow dryers, that's what they saw. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh my! Why don't you just shake it off? If you feel like you said he's all hairy. I just picture a dog.
Yeah, he's extremely hairy. Anyways, let me think some sponsors.
Man,
and let's get
we
out
got
of here.
5 minutes left, and you got that guy in my brain. All right, man. Let me turn my microphone off. Thank y'all.
You're welcome for that.
Bye, bye, people.
All right, so let's thank some sponsors here. We got Retreat Behavioral Health. Fantastic facilities all over the place. They got some in Pennsylvania, here in Florida as well. We've been to the Florida ones, not the Pennsylvania ones yet, but they're fantastic. You got Journey Pure. A little disappointed that I didn't get to see Patrick Dunn and Jamie and them at our golf tournament, but nonetheless, fantastic facility. We did have some people there representing. Graham was there, yeah. And then we have Orange County Drug Free Coalition, which Carol has now moved on to bigger and better things, but Eileen is holding down the fort. Her and Janet are handling business there at Orange County. And then last but not least, we have the Now Matters More Foundation, which we help individuals navigate the drug and alcohol world, as well as getting them help and scholarships when necessary. We just had our golf tournament on April 1st, which was fantastic. If you want to see more about what we do and who we are, you can go to nowmattersmore.org. Or if you need some help immediately, dial 1-833-NOW-MATTERS. That's 833-NOW-MATTERS. All right. So, I don't even know how to wrap up after talking about the grizzly bear guy. All right. So, vulnerabilities. Let's do our 3 tips. Let's do our 3 tips and get out of here. The first tip is, when it comes to vulnerabilities, we all have them. Stop acting like you don't. You're not better than anybody because you tell people you don't have them. You're not convincing anybody or even yourself that you don't have them. Just stop. Everybody has vulnerabilities, insecurities, whichever adjective you want to put. We all have them. Second one is that's okay. It's okay that you have vulnerabilities. And it's okay that even if you're in a situation where you're working on them, it's okay to still have them. I still do. He still does. We all do. You're probably never going to get to a point in your life, unless you're the grizzly bear guy, where you have zero vulnerabilities at all whatsoever. So it's okay to have them. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not less than just because you have some vulnerabilities still. And the third and final one, which I think is important to note, is having vulnerabilities is not the weakness. Having them and letting them control your behavior and dictate to you how you're going to act, that's the weakness. So having them and not working on them, that is the weakness. Having them themselves, that's not a weakness at all, man. We all have them. It's part of being grown. It's part of being alive. We got to do what we got to do, man. Just work on your vulnerabilities. Do the best you can. Admit you have them. And apologize when you're wrong. I think that's all we got today. Oh, yeah, you can find us on YouTube. Subscribe. Go to youtube.com/Dharma Time. If you have an iPhone, you can catch us on iTunes. If you have a Android, what's wrong with you? Get an iPhone. If not, you can go to Google Play. Yes, I'm biased. But anyways, you can find us on all the social media outlets as well. And I think that's all we got. So now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.
You think he plans it all out? Or just makes it up as he goes along?
Human knowledge belongs to the world.
Hey y'all, it's JoJo Knows
and Constance B.
and we are back with a fabulous show, The Lemon Squeeze.
Woo!
So tune in Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. daily. Monday through Friday daily, no weekend.
Exactly. And make sure you tune in to WPSN99.com.
Also follow us on Instagram, Lemon Squeeze Show.
Yes, and we do follow back.
We do.
We do. We do.
Follow back. See you on the air.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. It's the street certified dope Dr. Louis Delgado from The Couch Live. The Couch Live airs right here on the Problem Solving Network, WPSN99.com, each and every Friday live at noon, and replays here each and every day at 12 and 4 p.m. We focus on addiction, recovery, and all things in between, silencing the stigma since 1999. You know, in a time right now where there's so many of our friends and family members suffering with addiction and struggling with trying to get sober, we need a place to go to. We need a trustworthy place to help people not only talk about addiction and recovery in a non-threatening way, but also help guide people to get the help, good help. So join us on the Couch Live on the Problem Solving Network, WPSN99.com.
The great Oz has spoken.
Taking power from the weak. I live a life out of fear. I'm taking more of it. I'm sharing what I really feel. Breaking out of my shell, I'm selling souls down to hell. I'm taking more of it. I'm sharing what I really feel. Don't feel me. You don't see me. You don't feel me. You don't see me.
Hey, good morning, Metropolis. It's now 5 after the hour of 6 a.m. in the big monster city. Temperature is a balmy 65 degrees, which is good news for you reptiles, and it looks like it's going to be a perfect day to maybe, hey, just lie in bed, sleep in, or simply work out that slab that's hanging over the